Alright, third time's a charm here. At least sometimes the microphone will be working here and it's not me ranting into a microphone for 20 minutes on silence. Either way, welcome back, everybody. Today, I actually think, as someone who's actually played a inordinate, a unreasonable amount of PvE into this game, probably to the point where none of the developers actually expect someone to actually put this much on time into it, I can speak with incoherent authority on this subject matter of raids itself, of PvE in Crossout. So let's get started. So welcome back, everybody. Today we are talking about this lovely thing called raiding in Crossout. I know that a variety of you probably have never interacted with it, at least definitely not to a significant degree other than to whatever you can get for weekly badge missions out of here. But raiding, for those of you who don't know, you can go out there, you can do a little boom bap pout with little PvE cars there, try to take objectives, try to pick a convoy, try to do X, Y, or Z, take out Leviathans. There's a bunch of modes in there that you can actually do. However, there are quite a few issues with PvE that I kind of wanted to go over here. So I got a little list here, so I'm just going to go down them one by one here, and we'll address each point, go over a little bit of detail, and you know how it'll be here. It'll be actually structured this time. So first things first, what are the main issues with raiding today? Well, one of them is that it's incredibly static. Now, what do I mean by static? Well, in the sense that pretty much every single mission that you do, in the sense that if you do, say, the same data theft or war for fire mission, they're going to be exactly the same the first time you do it to the 1000th time that you do it. Now, of course, this can change with regards to as your weapons that you choose out and X, Y, or Z, and you know that's one way it technically can quote unquote change. But in the sense of how you actually play the mission type there, it doesn't actually really change a whole lot from mission to mission. You're still going to be defending a point, you're still going to be going against the same amount of cars in the exact same spawn pattern, and you're probably going to be doing it at a hard to normal difficulty raid, because doing anything else is just a profit loss. And this is mainly because there's just a lack of dynamics within these actual PvE missions themselves. One mission plays exactly like the next mission because they legitimately are just copy and pasted, and they're incredibly structured to be the exact same. Now, while this may be very great for someone who's maybe trying to do this competitively and trying to get through it as fast as humanly possible, maybe it's good for them so that they can actually optimize their strategies for this in regard. But everyone else is just casually playing this, and they're just kind of like, you know, going about this. It is mind-numbingly tedious and the same every single time. Like, if you know where to go every single time for where the cars are going to spawn, you know what vehicles are going to spawn every single time there, then at some point it's just literally you're just going through the paces over and over and over, and your mind just kind of turns out. I mean, there's a reason why I just sit there and watch YouTube videos every single time I'm playing PvE. So that's just one issue. Next thing is that they're incredibly easy, hands down, for every single one of them. Even though that they actually increase the power score requirement for the hard raids, they are still stupidly easy every single time. I rarely, if ever, lose any hard mission there. The only time I ever lose a hard mission is when the game only spawns me in by myself, and it's just me facing these guys alone. But even then, the game has gotten smart and actually takes me out of the game before it even gets too far. But even then, in the sense where I even have an incompetent teammate, I still manage to get pretty far, if not complete the mission 99% of the time there. There is hardly any challenge in here. The only time there's ever a challenge is when you're facing the frickin' Steppenwolf faction, and that's only because, guess what? They have 4,000 HP per car! Well, that's just because they have so much HP. It's just sitting there shooting it for 10 frickin' minutes. That's it. There's nothing about that that's interesting. It's just you sitting there watching your guns just chew away at a giant sandhill. Congratulations, I'm already bored and I have 3 enemies in. Heavens forbid if you've played down the Firestarters factions, the Lunatics faction, that stuff's going to be over in 2 seconds. If you're playing on the Retchers and the Barrels, oh my god, it is not even, oh my, you're not even having fun there. It's literally just like, you shoot a single volley at a card, it blows up and you're done in 2 seconds. There's no difficulty in that regard. There's also just the same repetitious nature of them. This is kind of a similar issue with static, but in the sense that there's just so few mission types that they're actually the same. Like data theft and war for fire. What is that? They're the same mission type. Other than that, there's also just the fact, too, that they're too long. I mean, some of these missions can extend for upwards of 10 to 20 minutes per mission. Now, this would be fine if they were actually fairly dynamic, like if it was a League of Legends game and you're getting new items, or doing new things, unlocking new abilities, leveling up. But when you're literally just playing the same car in the same zone for 10 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes, and because one of the cars just keeps running away and they're all invisible, then it's not really engaging. It's not really engaging for at least the time that you have to spend there. Especially considering this is also compounded by the fact that every single mission is the exact same and there's lack of dynamics. So you doing this, 2 or 3 times, 5 times over because the same mission is there for an hour at a time and it's the most profitable mission, well, congratulations, it's going to feel incredibly long every time. That is, unless you play Retros or Barrels, then congratulations, the mission's over in 5 minutes and you've already earned like 700% rewards. And I guess in general, there's just few mission archetypes here. Now, it's not as bad as in beta when there's only 3 mission archetypes that you could actually choose from, like the Convoy, or the Oil Rig Assassination, or the Perimeter Breach. But even in the modern day here, you only really have like 3 or 4 mission archetypes. You still have the 2 Convoy missions, you still have the 2 Point Defense missions, and you still have that Perimeter Breach there. So in the sense, it really hasn't even expanded there. The only time there ever seems to be an expansion in that archetype is when they actually have the events going on for the brand new type of PvE missions, like the Gozu or the Operation Santa Claus or whatever that Christmas event is. Beyond that, there really isn't a whole lot of new mission archetypes there that have been added. Sure, Chase was added, but guess what? It's been taken out too. So it's not even really there anymore. And again, similar issue with PvP is that there's also just very too few mini-maps there. I mean, the same Convoy map there, the 2 or 3 Convoy maps there, come on, we've had those for years now. Where's the change? And I know they have the ability to make more of these maps here. They're releasing, 2 or 3 PvP maps here or there, but only then for them to take it out because of like some random tertiary or niche balancing issue there that barely affects anybody. I'm not sure if it's going to be a thing to ask them to get new maps in there, but we'll see. Now, we're actually going to transition here into how to improve this section here, so thankfully you for all enjoying and enduring that little whine session there. You got it, you guys are good cookies. But here we go. How to improve this little issue here. Now, of course, the main thing here is just to add in more dynamics when it comes to the mission archetypes here. And now, what do I mean by that? There's a lot of ways that you can actually make a PvP or a PvE mission way more dynamic, and that how it changes from game to game. So, of course, first things first, weather systems, easy thing to implement. Rain, sleet, snow, hail, whatever you may be, dust storms, things like that either damage your car, alter how it maneuvers, changes what weapons are effective there, and maybe changes how you interact with the map. That's always going to be something interesting there, because at least then you're not doing the exact same thing every time. You have to actually consider the weather effects in there. There's also going to be changes in the maps themselves. They kind of do alter this with some of the map types, and how you may spawn at one end for this convoy mission, but you may spawn at the other end for a different convoy mission here. But they can also implement different changes in the map as well. I mean, you can alter the placement of bushes, of trees, and different various objects as they obstruct vision, or add hiding places, or add vantage points. If you actually had it so that those changed between maps, like they can randomly change throughout it, like trees are in a different location, trash is in a different location this time. Okay, well, this path blocked off, so we'll still get on this path this time. If you could actually do that, that'd be great there, because then that, at least then, would actually force you to go down a different path, instead of just going down whatever path is the most efficient every single time. Different spawn locations, well, that you can just guess it. There's just different spawn locations for enemy cars. Instead of spawning over here, they spawn over there, they spawn behind you, they spawn on this ledge and come around. Things like that, where it actually prevents them from actually camping out certain spawn points. That'd be excellent, especially the ones where they literally just plop right in front of you. Stop that. And here we go here. What about allowing for different building of different structures in maps? Now, if you don't know, the Frontier Defense map, you can actually place down these things called Sentry Guns there, similar to the drones and whatnot, except you gotta expend resources that you accrue through destruction in the game itself. So instead of being able to build, like, say, turrets, you could also build, like, spike barricades. You can build blockades to prevent enemies from going down this one map, so you can actually choke them through this section of the map, or place down certain drones that actually fly or heal or repair you, or ones that can actually point out enemies that are invisibility, or just 1,000 different other things that you could build. That would actually be incredibly nice to have in its own right. And you can even have it so that they're actually destructible, so that enemies themselves can actually destroy these things, so you actually have to maintain repairs and trying to actually keep these things up. That'd be a great thing to do too, to actually add in further dynamics to the game, and add in just even more variety for the player to do. And this wouldn't even be that terribly complex, because a lot of people are going to be familiar with, like, tower defense games, so this would be in that similar vein there. Especially if you even allow for upgrades that actually enhance or alter the effects later on. That'd be a great feature to add. Now, of course, it sounds like a lot of coding, and it would be an absolutely nightmare in a PvP game, but if Targen can pull the resources together to do this, maybe offer a couple $100 packs, or just started putting advertisements in the game, I don't give a crap. Just actually start, changing the game here. And for adding more car types in general, that's just going to be a thing where more PvE cars, the more vehicles that are actually in the game itself would be great. And in fact, if they even have so many varieties of cars, that they can actually rotate them out between the games. That would even add a further level of dynamics there, because then, congratulations, there isn't the same, like, 3 cars you see every single game. Now it's, okay, here's these cars, these games, gotta change my strategy. Oh, here's these cars, these games, I gotta change my strategy again. That'd be great to have there. More dynamics, more player agency here, you get the picture. Now, another thing they could do here is adding higher difficulty with multiplayer to cars. Now, this would actually be great to have here, in the sense that let's actually add in different multipliers here that affect the car stats. Maybe, hey, this time they become electrical, and if you destroy them, they blow up and deal damage in a radius. Or, hey, this time they have increased speed, so they'll ram you more frequently and things like that. Or, hey, they have more reload speed here, so it's going to be a bit more difficult to actually get them down in time before they actually damage you. And just things like that where it'll actually make it more difficult to actually get them. So different multipliers here to change the car's dynamics here. And maybe that'd be a difficulty in its own right, in which that's like, oh, here's like the hard rate plus that gives you even more rewards, but you have an incredibly high chance of failing it. That'd be awesome to have in that regard. Now, of course, with this enhanced difficulty here, you'd probably have to balance around this so that, you know, things like rectors and barrels will become the absolute dominant weapons in that regard. So you'd probably have to balance it around, making sure that the rectors and barrels are not just absolutely mandatory for these missions. In fact, you'd probably just, like, you know, not allow them in general. That'd be great. Next here, of course, it's going to be the main thing here, adding more mission variety here. With the lack of mission archetypes within this PvE game mode itself, adding more of those, just going to be great. More things to do. Wow, who would have guessed that would have made, you know, the game more appealing? Now, of course, there comes the hard question of, well, what game modes to implement here? Well, there's always a couple of things where you can just add in the event game modes. Those are always fun to have too. Maybe make it less thematic so that it's more appropriate for the general season. But you could also do things like, hey, why don't you do that chase here that you've taken out 1,000 times over, but have since removed just because of how powerful the harvester was. Or maybe you'll have a Leviathan mission where the player actually controls their own Leviathan that they created. Of course, not as powerful as the actual traditional Leviathan. Maybe reduce the energy requirements there. But congratulations, making the person that'll own Leviathan, they made it to go around and pick up their own weapons off the ground or from scavenged cars. Things like that, that would actually be incredibly cool here. You can also have a mission type where you're actually controlling drones and you're actually doing like a drone battle. That could be really sweet in its own right, similar to the drone map PvP mode that we had there for a while. Or maybe even doing rescue missions where you try to go and save somebody and then guide them back into the escape route there. Either going through means of like actually pushing and shoving them to harpooning them. To do things like that, we're actually trying to protect this individual car here. That could actually be pretty cool in its own right, especially if that other car to try to rescue is another player in itself, and they're going through a mode of trying to escape and enhance their own abilities. That would be incredibly sweet to do. Now, in the sense of how much you have to do to develop that, it sounds like 2 game modes in one. Yeah, maybe, but it still could be interesting there too. Having, you know, someone be the rescuer and the rescuee, that could actually be an interesting dynamic to try in its own right and try to actually communicate in that regard. But those are just a couple of mission varieties that I'm recommending here. I imagine there's going to be absolutely way more that I'm not thinking about here because, again, I'm not a very creative person here. I don't have a background in game design or know a whole lot about the game industry. I'm just some random fucking red panda on the internet complaining into a microphone for an ungodly sum of time here. But there's also just other things too. They could do a little small things like adding lore more into these mission types where it's like, hey, we actually need this resources here to, you know, build up engineering resources because the lunatics recently raided us, or X, Y, or Z thing that I'm sure they could make more interesting, you know, lore missions than what I'm thinking of here. Or even just adding in more voiceovers here, so, you know, someone speaks in, it's like, oh, here's IVXO talking about, you know, what the reason is for this thing, where we're at, who we're facing, you know, things like that that could actually be somewhat interesting there. So they could easily add those in too. They could just make them context dependent on whatever enemy you're fighting or on the map you're at, versus just like, you know, specific mission archetypes every single time. But that's just one thing to try. But that's that'll be my list of things to improve. Of course, I'll probably be thinking of more things later on here. It'll just depend on what I can remember. So feel free to leave your own suggestions, recommendations, or what flaws that you find in traditional PvE gameplay here in Crossout. Other than that, I want to thank you all for joining this evening. If you've had fun, follow on the platform is your favorite, and consider becoming a member today too. Starts at only $1 here, and you get yourself a brand new pack of emotes that you would love to use in chat. Other than that, guys, I want to thank you all for being with me this evening. Goodness me, I've spoken way too much already, and my voice and my articulation is crap right now. Other than that, I want to thank you all again. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.